समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. Okay, so today we start with verse 16. I'll read the verse. नात्यश्नतस्तु योगोऽस्ति न चैकान्तमनश्नतः न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन. Now, like a true coach, he is going to advise on everything and write precautionary details. He is going to give you what you should not do, what can harm you, what can deter you in meditation. See, look at the details the Gita gives, which is amazing. And like even in your sports, a coach does your diet and your sleep and everything. He regulates, isn't it? And he tells you what to do, what not to do. Same thing is over here. So he is, see, this is the story of a mortal man hatching out of his shell into immortality. So the experiment is not a simple one. It is a very difficult exercise, right? So then, from imperfection to divinity, if you want to go, so that's a very difficult exercise. Now you have to tread very, very carefully. The pitfalls and the must do, there are two things. He will tell you both, that if you do this, your meditation will not be okay, and also what you must do to improve. Okay, so he says, see, verily yoga is not possible for him who eats too much. Look at this. All those who go after dieting and all that, please listen carefully what the Gita has to say about dieting for a meditator or a Sikh. Verily, yoga is not possible for him who eats too much or very little, that means, nor for him who sleeps too much, nor for him who is always awake, O Arjuna. See, all the wise people advise moderation in living. You have that famous, those of you who have done Plato as a philosopher would know, his theory of the golden mean is the same thing, that in everything that you do, there has to be moderation. Now, see, lack of eating, what does it do? Lack of eating is a warning, because that can make you feel weak. It can make you fly into tempers. Have you seen people who are fasting and very strict fasting, then they have so much of agitation in their mind, they go around shouting at everybody in the house, so that kind of thing. There's lack of energy even to do your own sadhana. So eating too little is a no. Okay, then eating too much, that is another thing. Eating too much dulls the mind, it brings lethargy into the body, and then you want to sleep. Your mind becomes dull. There is too much tamas gathers into your mind and you would like to sleep. If you eat too much of anna, suddenly any carbohydrates you eat a lot, or any food that you eat a lot and your stomach is too full, you would like to sleep. So then the next question any seeker will ask is that what should one eat? People even ask that, कि क्या खाएं, ये भी तो बताओ. So Shankara has given a very simple thing in one of his texts. He says that eat whatever suits you, whatever is suited individually to yourself. because everybody's body is different. Everyone's body is different. So you digest things differently, your likes and dislikes are different. And वो हिंदी में कहते हैं ना, जो रुचे सो पचे, ऐसा भी बोलते हैं. तो Shankara is saying the same thing, that whatever suits you and whatever agrees with your body, you should eat that. Now Patanjali also in Yoga Shastra, Patanjali has given 3 steps in Yoga Shastra. Everybody knows them, but I will just tell you that he says half the stomach should be filled with food, and the remaining half, make it again half. So one, उसमें आधा पानी, water, and the rest should be left for air to circulate and digest the food properly. Because if your stomach is too full, like Gurudev used to say to us, that you people go into the dining room and eat up to your tonsils. Where will you hear what I'm saying? So eat up to the tonsils. Of course, he used to exaggerate, but there were a lot of people who used to eat a lot. Laddus are being served. Okay, I'm going to have 8 laddus. What is this? So moderation in eating is very, very important. Another thing is about diet that the Gita says, you eat what is readily available without too much of hassle. Like some people are very fussy. No, unless this is there, I want to. No, unless that is there. Unless it is served like this. Unless it is cooked like that. No. For a seeker, it's a big no-no. Because that will strengthen your likes and dislikes. You should not have those kind of likes and dislikes in your food. I've told you before how Gurudev used to eat. Of course, he was a very big saint, but he never ate anything individually. He used to just mix it all up and eat it so that he gets taste for nothing. Dekho, food is one thing that very clearly takes your mind away, especially those people who are fond of food. So, Swami Tapovan Maharaj, to teach these people, his students, there were just 2, 3 students, and to teach them, he did one thing. Once somebody got a box of sweets, which was just not available in Uttarkashi for anything. Now he told his student, go and keep it in my room. He has one small mud thatched kutia. उसमें वो रख दिया. One day passed, these people said, oh, now sweets have come, he will give some to us also as prasad. Nothing he did. Next day also, nothing he did. So the students thought that, oh, well, Tapovan Maharaj must have eaten them himself. He must be eating for himself, which was also not possible really, because he was such a tapasvi. Third day, again, he did not say anything. After the class and teaching was over, he told the student, okay, there's a box of sweets in my room that somebody brought, just bring it out. So everybody was very happy that, the box of sweets is coming. And then he told him, go and empty it in the Ganges. Everybody was very crestfallen. Anyway, that sweet, the Guru saying, and it had to be done. So the student went and emptied it in the Ganges, did pranam and came back. Then Swamiji said that I have done this to show you how for 3 days, the whole time while I was teaching, your mind was on the sweets. All of you kept on thinking, when will he give us the sweets? When will he give us the sweets? See? So, to eat whatever is readily available, that is very good. There should be no load on the stomach. Moderation is the law. If you ask in one sentence about eating, moderation is the law. That's it. Not too much, not too little. Whatever is readily available, not too much of effort going into it, not harming the environment and not harming creatures. That is also enjoined for a seeker. So, ek to ye ho gaya. Acha, we now come to the next verse. We go to 17. युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःख This is also a very famous verse, Yuktahar Viharasya. Hmm? Now, Yukta, huh? Yukta Har, food and recreation. Vihar, recreation. देखो, Yukta means both these should be balanced together. Food and recreation should be moderate. Again, Plato's theory of golden mean will fit here perfectly well. Just think of it, how very practical it is. How very practical for even worldly success. And that is, the coach is advising minimum effort for maximum performance achieved easily. And as I said last time, this is putting in effort to become effortless. The sadhak's whole idea is to become effortless. Hmm? Now, dekho, the example Gurudev gave us was that when a young girl marries and goes to America, Indian girl marries and goes to America. Acha. अब वहां पे when she goes, obviously no servants, no house help, no nothing. So that girl and a new bride, so she is trying to be the best wife possible. Huh? Everything perfect she should do, everything. Now, in doing that, she has never done it in her mother's house. So when she goes there, all that she is constantly working from morning to night, she is working. And then saying, oh God, I'm tired. By the end of the day, she has done everything perfectly, but she is absolutely tired because she's constantly on the phone with her mother. These days, of course, there is your YouTube and internet and all that. In those days, the girls used to be on phone with their mothers. Mummy, how do you make this? Mummy, how do you make that? And mummy is constantly advising from India, do this, do that, do this, do that. Then the ingredients are not available. Sometimes something. Okay. Now the same girl, after 10 years of marriage, just watch how good she has become. She has learned the art of Yukta Hara Viharasya. Hmm? She does her work very efficiently. Something is frozen, something is kept half cooked, something is there. She's brought groceries for 15 days and frozen them. She's done this, she's done that. So, all the tricks that the American housewives use, she has learned. So, in 1 hour, she has cooked for the family and then she's free and she's roaming around. That is the expertise. Huh? She has learned minimum effort, maximum result, maximum benefit. So this is the example Gurudev used to give. Okay. Now ahar, actually ahar is intake from not just your mouth, not just food. Ahar means intake from all the senses. In Vedantic language, in scriptural parlance, ahar means intake from all the senses, eyes, nose, ears, mouth, and everything. And vihar is your responses to those intakes. Vihar is the response to all the objects, emotions, thoughts that you take in. So both these should be, there should be moderation in both, and both should be balanced. The Gita is very clearly saying that don't reject outright recreation. Dekho, it is saying yukta hara viharasya. Both are important. Ahar is also important and vihar, your recreation, is also important. Do you notice this? The Gita does not say that you reject outright all entertainment, don't enjoy anything and just go into the Himalayas. No, no, no. Gita is very practical. The Gita is for people like you and me. It is showing you the highest goal that the saints achieve or the man of perfection achieves, but it is dealing with Arjuna who is like us. So here he says that देखो अच्छा now what is ahar? Ahar is declutter and choose very carefully what you take in. Declutter not only thoughts and things, both the things together, not just things. Declutter, normally people think we'll clean up the house of all the rubbish. That is not declutter. Declutter is declutter the mind. Declutter the mind of all the unimportant memories, unimportant thoughts, dissipating ideas. All those need to be thrown out. This is all old rubbish. So देखो वही delete का button, as I say always, just press the delete button if any old memory passes your mind, because it is useless. It has got no meaning at all. It is just thoughts cluttering your mind and dissipating your mental energy. So why do you do it? देखो यत चिंतनम tat vadanam is a saying. Huh? And as you think, and so you act in the world outside. So be very careful about the mind. You have to see to the ahar of the mind, also to the vihar of the mind. Ashram atmosphere is very, very pure. So initially, when people go to an ashram like Siddhbari or somewhere good ashram, Swami Shivananda ashram in Rishikesh or whatever, you feel very nice initially because the sattva floods your mind and you are uplifted. But very soon, you start missing all the filth that you have left behind. So sometimes the mind will bring up topics and you like to talk immediately. Vihar. Vihar is what? So and so eloped with so and so. Oh, don't you know? You know that one. Oh, he's so no more. He died. Acha, that one. Oh, he lost so heavily in the stock market. Don't you know? He's become a pauper. And so. He's this. So and so. He's that. You know, like that. So that is clutter in your mind, lodged in your mind, which is coming out. So when you say yuktahar viharasya, all that has to be thrown out. हाँ अच्छा फिर देखो ये क्या है युक्त चेष्टस्य. Don't become a slave to your chosen activity. All of us choose some activity or the other. ठीक है ना? But the Gita देखो very clearly saying yukta cheshtasya. That means only that much of cheshta which is necessary. See the way people are working in America. 14 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours of work. I mean, inhuman. And day after day after day. Because they are so obsessed with the goal, as if that goal, when they will get everything in the treasures of the world. So they work like crazy. Now, when you work like crazy, you are neglecting your family, you are neglecting your children, you are neglecting yourself, isn't it? So the Gita very practically says that you have to balance, you have to make efforts in moderating your work life and your home life. It is very, very important. Too much work, hmm, it will not, there will be no redemption. If you do too much work, you think you're burning vasanas. No, you will gather more vasanas. Now I want to achieve this, now I want to achieve that. And then it's like a treadmill. You are constantly on the treadmill and you go on walking, go on walking, go on walking. And your employers keep setting one goal after the other in front of you, and they give you huge bonuses and huge money so that you go on running. How much money do you need? Remember that story of Leo Tolstoy? How much land does a man need? And that man was told that as much land as you can cover in one day while running, that land belongs to you. So that man, out of greed for the land, ran and ran and ran and ran right till evening and collapsed and died. Then he was buried. So the last line of Tolstoy is, how much land does a man need? Just 6 feet. 6 feet of land in which he was buried. That much land the man needs, right? So one should not be really greedy. Too much work will create problems for you. There will be exhaustion, there will be agitation, there will be sleeplessness. All that the Gita writes, and says that it should be yukta cheshtasya. This is a very important. Dekho how practical can you get. I'm just amazed myself at the instructions of the Gita. Absolute moderation in sleep and wakefulness also. Dekho, this is also very, very practical. It is biologically very true that you must give your body enough rest so that it can put in enough work. If the ratio of work and sleep is disturbed, like some people keep working through the night. Okay, I'm working for America. So in America, it's day now. So you would sacrifice your night sleep so that you can work for America at night. Or you can work for London. So London timings are different. Your timing is different. So you're working late into the night and sleeping late in the morning to match the UK timings. So that should I say that moderation, and you must respect the biological clock of nature and your body. Unless you respect that biological clock, you are going to fall sick. And therefore, he says that yoga is not possible to one who sleeps too much or one who sleeps too little. देखो जो दो words यहाँ पर use कर रहे हैं, they are very very important. Sleep is the word he has used is swapna, ठीक है ना? और wakefulness के लिए उन्होंने use किया है avabodh. Now carefully on these two words, huh? One meaning is, of course, sleep and wakefulness. This is the literal meaning, a simple meaning which we have done. The other meaning is swapna is a world of non-apprehension of reality. Isn't it? Swapna means non-apprehension of reality. Now, in this world, you and I are living even while we are awake. Don't we consider the body as real? Don't we consider the world as real? Isn't it? है ना? Upanishads and all say it is swapna tulya. It is not sapna. दुनिया सपना नहीं है. It is relative reality. Relative reality means that it is like a dream, but not a dream. So, if a tiger is chasing you and you don't run, saying कि ये तो dream है, the tiger will eat you up. Even if it is in a dream, the dream human being will be eaten, whether it is a dream or not. You have to live according to the laws of the world while you are in non-apprehension. So this is non-apprehension. The term used is swapna, which is the reality for you and me. Now all your life comes into this swapna. The Upanishads say so. Now avabodha, the word avabodha means wakefulness, alert, meditative movements. Avabodha is when you, bodha means gyan, when you get knowledge or when you are aware, when you are conscious, that is the word bodha. Avabodha, alert, meditative movements. Not too much worldly life, no too long hours of forced meditation. ये भी देखो कितना practical Gurudev used to advise on this also. Once somebody I know, he had started meditating for hours and hours. And he told Gurudev that he loves it so much and then he loves to be in it for hours. So 1.5 hours or 2 hours in the morning, 1.5 hours, 2 hours in the evening. And Gurudev immediately stopped him from doing it. Dekho. So this avabodh also, alert meditative poise cannot be held for too long by early seekers like you and me. Early seekers are not advised long meditative hours. He says that dekho, there should be a balance, not too much worldly life and not too long hours of forced meditation. Because if you get even a little bit of taste of joy in meditation, you force yourself again and again कि मुझे वैसा ही joy चाहिए. I want that again. And till it doesn't come, you go on sitting and elongating the hours of meditation. You are here advised against it. They say that no, that should not be done. Okay. Then, what does yoga do? What are the benefits of yoga? Anybody is going to ask, what are the benefits of yoga? Yogo bhavati dukkhaha, it says, the last line, and very clearly it is said in there, ke yogo bhavati dukkhaha. This is the benefit. This line means that it promises to destroy all your sorrows. Think about it. If you can achieve this yoga, it promises to destroy all your sorrows. And therefore, you have to lead a life of moderation in all spheres. Yuktahara viharasya, sleeping, swapna, avabodh, everything that it is giving is very, very practical, which is something interesting to note, that the Gita is not idealistic. It is for people like us and is advising you what to eat and what to do. Come to the verse 18. Okay. Verse 18. Yada viniyatam chittam atmaneva nispraha sarvakamebhyo yukta ityuchyate tada. It says, when the perfectly controlled mind rests in the self only, free from longing for all objects of desires, then it is said that he is united. United, yukta. Now, immediately our mind thinks, कि भाई ये तो बहुत मुश्किल. This is not possible. Look what it says. A perfectly controlled mind rests in the self only, free from longing for all objects of desires. Notice that it does not say free from desires. It says free from the longing of desires for objects. For objects, for situations, for people, for relationships, for situations. When your mind is longing, then your mind is being enslaved. To the extent that your mind yearns to possess anything, to that extent you are enslaved and controlled by the object of desire. So desiring is not bad, desiring is not wrong according to the Gita. The longing and the yearning, the absolute suffering till you get it, that is bad. So it says viniyatam chittam, totally and perfectly controlled mind. Viniyatam chittam. Niyatam chittam. Seated, resting in the self. When the mind is just seated in the self, calm, peaceful, still. Nispraha. Dekho, spraha means to clutch. Nispraha means to declutch. So loosen your grip on the world. Declutch from the world. Gurudev used to say, give the example that when you go to office, you've left the home, when you go to office, you never remember God. So when you are in the puja room with God, don't think of office. See, your work can disturb your mind in the puja room. Whatever is your chosen field of work, if you're putting too much effort, as the Gita forbids you to do, that don't do it, overdo work. Because if you overdo, your mind will get ruined and your body will get ruined. So there should be a balance in work and home life, balance in work and family life, which surprisingly Today's counselors are advising exactly this to people who are overworked, especially in countries like America. People are very, very hard and overworked. It's happening in India as well now. Huh? So they set targets for you where you work day and night with no respite for yourself. That is no way of living. So it says that in the meditation room, forget about the world. As in your office, you forget about meditation and God, as Guru Dev used to say. Declutch from the world. Now, identification with the desire alone can disturb you. Desires don't disturb you, but identification with a desire will disturb you. Dekho, if you desire that your neighbor's son should get a very good high paying job, that's a desire, but is it disturbing you? No, it is not. The moment you identify that my son should get a very good high paying job, the desire starts agitating your mind, isn't it? So, identification with the desire is what Gita is advising against. ये देखो, longing for all, longing for the spraha. अगर आपको spraha होती है, that is the only thing, that your identification with the desire. देखो, when you ask a young boy that the cycle, अच्छा, and unless you give speed to desire, no desire can disturb you. देखो, for example, if you ask a boy, 12-year-old boy, you see with a cycle in the market, you say, how have you come here? He says, the cycle brought me. Can the cycle bring the boy to the market? No. The boy has to sit on the cycle and then he has to very vigorously pedal his way all the miles to the market from his home. Unless he pedals the cycle and sits on the cycle, can the cycle bring him? No, it cannot. So, every desire, when you put force into that desire, and when you are longing for it to happen, yearning for it to happen, that is the only time that it has mastery over you. देखो, Lao Tzu का एक quotation I am giving you. He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still. This is the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, and this is the quotation from him. So you have to be yukta, mind and intellect united, stead one direction towards all the pointers that point to the ultimate reality, the self. So that is what you have to make your mind. Your mind should not be galloping around like a wild horse, uncontrolled by you, the master of the mind. It should not be unrestrained, it should be in full control, in full discipline in your hands. One advice given is simplify your life. Very, very important advice. You yourself tie yourself by your longing and yearning. The more you long and yearn for things to happen, to possess things, or any situation to come, the more is your nervousness. Remember Arjun's nervousness. He was yearning to win the battle. He was yearning to win back his kingdom. And that is what made him nervous when he saw the opponents and he saw his own teacher standing, who was a master in the skill of war. He saw Bhishma Pitama standing, who was his grandfather, and he became nervous that if I lose the war, how much of infamy am I going to gain? And of course, I will lose my kingdom also. And that is what made him nervous. So it is not the renunciation of desires that is advised by the Gita, it is the longing for the objects of desire called nispraha. So this word is important, that nispraha you have to be. Objects can only dance around you, But unless you long for them, they cannot trouble you. They are innocent. The objects don't even know that you desire them. No object knows how much you want it. So they are innocent. The desire is in your mind. The longing is in your mind. Huh? So you have to control yourself. Viniyatam and yukta. If you don't have these, there is abject slavery. So intelligent discrimination is advice to the seeker. You evaluate the objects, place a true value on everything, and then desire the object but not yearn for it. Uh, when you are like that, it will allow an easy recoil, an easy withdrawal from sensuous gutters. Come to verse 19. Let's come to verse 19. Yatha deepo nivatastho nengate sopama smrita yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanah. It says, as a lamp placed in a windless place does not flicker, is a simile used to describe the yogi of controlled mind practicing yoga in the self or absorbed in the yoga of the self. Dekho. Yatha deepo. Yatha means just like, as. Deepo nivatastho nengate supama smrita. Sa upama. This is a simile. Simile means it is a comparison with the deepak, steadily burning deepak. अच्छा, अभी यहाँ पे the word is यथा दीपो निवातस्तु नेंगते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यत चित्तस्य युंजतो योगम आत्मनः. हाँ, देखो, this word, it is when, देखो flame जो होती है ना, it is called sudhara. Now first take the word dhara. Dhara सबको मालूम है ना, it's a stream. It's a stream. Now water always runs from the higher to the lower levels. You know that? Dhara will never go upward. It is against gravity, right? It has to go from higher levels to lower levels. Okay. Now that is dhara. Now devotion is ulta. Devotion goes from the lower to the higher. You are not devoted to somebody who is lower than you, isn't it? You are always devoted to somebody who is more learned than you, who is more evolved than you, more knowledgeable than you, and higher in you in any respect or the other. ठीक है ना? उसको आप devoted होते हैं. So the word for devotion is ulta of dhara. It is radha. Radha means devotion to the higher. Radha is a symbol of devotion to the higher. So dhara is going downwards, thoughts going downwards, and Radha is thoughts flowing to the higher. And Sudhara is beautiful dhara. Sudhara, achhi dhara, beautiful dhara. And thoughts flowing towards the higher self when not hooked to the lower. Because if your thoughts are hooked to the lower, they can never become Sudhara. ये हिंदी का वर्ड है सुधार. सुना है ना? सुधार. सुधार मीन्स इम्प्रूवमेंट. सो इम्प्रूवमेंट क्या? फ्रॉम द लोअर टू द हायर, फ्रॉम द इम्परफेक्ट टू द परफेक्ट, उसी को आप सुधार कहते हैं ना. तो सुधार मीन्स a flow of thoughts and actions towards the higher. Now the flame, the example given here is deepa. Deepa is the flame. So flame is going from the lower to the higher. The mind of a meditator is compared, steady meditator is compared to a flame. Now, if you know scientifically, the flame looks like one, but it is not one. It is thousands of little sparks going upwards, all in one direction, closing like that on top. See, the tip of the flame is a point, it is not broad. So it rises from a broad base and goes to a tip. So when your thoughts become like this, that from a broad base of your mind wandering in the world of objects, emotions, thoughts, your mind focuses towards the higher, and all your thoughts are concentrated and pointing towards the higher in one unidirection, then that is, you know, your thoughts will flow very fast, and it will give solidity to your mind. It will give solidity to your thoughts. It will give tangibility to your thoughts. But this flame, ये जो सुधारा है आपके हायर के लिए, this can be disturbed by the breeze of sensuality entering any of these gates that you have. If any of your gates are open and receptive, sensuality will come in, and that is like a breeze that will extinguish the flame of your sadhana. Because this example is given very nicely, same example in the Upanishads. The same example is given in Ramcharitmanas Uttarkand. बड़ा डिटेल में ये एग्जाम्पल दिया है, सेम एग्जाम्पल दैट, एंड वहां तो शुरू से लेते हैं, रुई कहाँ से लेनी है, उसको बटना कैसे है, एंड इट्स अ सस्टेन्ड मेटाफर, a long sustained metaphor beautifully given in the Ramcharitmanas of how the seeker slowly does his sadhana and builds up this flame, and in one whiff of sensuality the flame can be extinguished, and then you have to start all over again. So the purer the mind, the swifter the rise. ध्यान देना कि if the mind is impure, you can go on practicing meditation, you can go on sitting in a room alone with eyes closed, nothing is going to happen, because there are impurities in the mind. Unless those impurities are totally dried up, those vasanas are totally roasted and thrown out of the mind, it is not going to happen. Gurudev used to give the example of a helium balloon. So the balloon filled with helium, you have to just cut the thread which is tied to the, he used to call OET, objects, emotions, thoughts. When you cut the thread that is attached to the world, the helium balloon rises straight up, and it goes on rising and goes on rising. The space inside it keeps on expanding, and as the air gets thinner and thinner and more rarefied, suddenly the balloon bursts. So the gross part of the balloon drops down to the earth with gravity. That is your physical body. And the true self, which is nothing space, it is just like space, not at all tangible, that merges with space. The inner space of the balloon merges with the total space. So that is that. So then you merge, the lower self merges with the higher self, the supreme reality. We will do next time, next verse. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.